Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Football, and it is December 17th, 2017, and it is 1:48 in the morning, and why am I sitting here recording a podcast, an audio file, at 1:48? Well, it's because it was a big night in sports, and I really kind of wanted to recap. It was a big night in local sports, and it was a big night for the NFL playoff picture, especially in the AFC, so I wanted to jump on here because tomorrow I may not be able to elaborate on all the things that transpired tonight. And it was also a buddy's birthday of mine, so I ended up going out and visiting him at a local bar/club here in Morristown, New Jersey. Just for those who aren't familiar with the area, Morristown is somewhere in between a little city and a big town, but it has a really nice party area, and everybody all across northwest New Jersey go to Morristown to party. So I met my friend and a couple of his friends out in town for a nice night, Saturday night, usually a night you go out and you relieve stress and you drink and you party. But I realized that going to these clubs, it's just not me. It's not Nick Filato. And that could be for many reasons, really. It could be because I'm a little bit more introverted. It could be because I'm short and I can't see over everybody. I mean, I'm not really sure. But, you just go in there, people are sloppy, drunk, falling all over the place. There's so much testosterone and boisterous nature going on. Everyone's trying to be the tough guy. And then you also just have a messy situation. You can never hear anybody. People bumping into each other, the germs spreading everywhere. It's not a desirable thing. So I thought to myself, I was like, all right, I'm going to leave here and I'm going to go and record a podcast. And that's where I am right now. Just wanted to give you the little lowdown on why I'm doing this so early in the morning. Anyways, the New York Knicks spoil Carmelo Anthony's return to the Garden with a 111, of course, to 96 win over Oklahoma City. And I thought this was going to be a trap game for Oklahoma City. And I say that when you look at these records, the Knicks actually have the better record at 16-13, where Oklahoma is 14-15. But from perception, everyone perceives Oklahoma City to be a much better team than the Knicks because they have star players like the one and only Russell Westbrook and Paul George and Carmelo Anthony. But I've been on this podcast before saying Carmelo needs to be coming off of the bench. But Carmelo started very hot in this game. He ended up with 12 points, but he didn't record a point in the second half. I thought it was nice that he was greeted with some cheers throughout the crowd when he was announced. It wasn't a rousing boo. I would have been a little upset with the Garden if that happened because he did his time here, and I thought it was time for him to leave. I'm glad he's no longer a part of this team, but I bid him farewell, but they really need to figure their stuff out. But this was a trap game also because they just got done playing in multiple overtimes last night against the Philadelphia 76ers. And I'm looking at the Knicks, and I'm like, okay, here we go. We could do this. And then injury report comes out. You knew Tim Hardaway wasn't going to play, and then came out that Kristaps was also not going to dress. And I said, crap. Now that's not good because you have the big boys coming to town. And yes, they are a little tired, but still, they are coming to play at the Mecca. Carmelo's going to be looking for blood. And early on, he hit a couple big shots, hit a three. It looked like it could have been one of those 40-point games, amazing returns at the Garden, but it got spoiled. Beasley came in to this game, and he played very good defense on Carmelo Anthony along with Lance Thomas. And Beasley kind of took on the Carmelo Anthony role from last year. He played a lot of ISO basketball, and he looked like the individual that was drafted second overall in the 2008 draft coming out of Kansas. He looked very, very talented today. Played 37 minutes, had 30 points. A lot of them ISO ball, driving to the net, hitting important shots. I was really impressed with Michael Beasley. I talked about him on the last show as well. This team has been relying on him more and more, and especially with the injuries that this team has suffered to Enes Kanter, who also played in this game. We'll go on to him in a little bit. And Kristaps. Beasley his usage rate has skyrocketed, and it's worked out for the Knicks right now. And this team needs to win all these home games because the Knicks have 2 road wins right now. One of them's in Brooklyn. I don't even consider that a road win because I'm sure that Brooklyn was filled with more Knicks fans than Nets fans at that game, but they were able to beat the Nets earlier in the week as well. But they relied on Beasley, they relied on Kanter, and they relied on Courtney Lee. Courtney Lee had 20 points, played 31 minutes in this game. You know they rely on his defense, and he usually comes through. He also hit 3 3-pointers. Doug McDermott hit 3 3-pointers as well. Important threes down the stretch. Because the one thing I was worried about while watching this game, the Knicks, towards the end of the game, had a significant lead. And I thought once Paul George hit that 3 with a couple minutes left, that it could get chipped down. And that would have been typical Knick basketball, especially a team that doesn't really have this true leader right now, this true star with Porzingis not being there. But a couple big threes by McDermott, a couple clutch plays by Beasley, and they were able to secure this W against, again, a team that people probably perceive as being much better than the New York Knicks. But the record would say otherwise. Kyle O'Quinn came into the game, played 24 minutes, had a Kyle O'Quinn type game. Not quite a double-double, but he had 9 points and 7 boards. Ron Baker had 11 points coming off of the bench. He was also getting into passing lanes, coming up with 2 steals in this game. Jarrett Jack had 3 steals, and I was just impressed with the defense. Now, there was that one play that Russell Westbrook had that I was just like, wow, that is Russell Westbrook. If he could do that every play, man, it would just be insane. He put a move on Courtney Lee and another Knicks defender, split both of them, and then just slammed it down. And I was like, wow, that is the Russell Westbrook that we all know and love. But it wasn't enough this time. He played 35 minutes, dropped 25 points, had 7 boards and 7 assists, so not quite a triple-double. Anthony, again, had 12 points in this game, 5 boards. Paul George had 18 points and 9 rebounds. It's just tough basketball, and that's something that I love to see, and that's what the Knicks are kind of developing into. Tough, gritty basketball. They're grinding these wins out. I thought their ball movement was pretty sufficient in this game, finding the open guy at the 3-point arc. I mean, look at the 3-pointers that were taken. McDermott took 5, Courtney Lee took 6, Jarrett Jack took 2, Ron Baker took 4, Lance Thomas took 3, Beasley took 2. So they were getting open shots at the arc, and a couple of them were able to knock these threes down multiple times, like Lee and McDermott, Beasley, and Thomas. So I'm impressed with that. And when it comes to the grit, I think Enes Kanter is the person I look to on this roster when it comes to getting these tough rebounds, securing them. I saw Beasley also do that. He pulled 5 boards down in this game as well, had 2 blocks. So I'm impressed with what the Knicks are showing me right now. I'm very happy about what the Knicks are showing me. And I'm very glad that they were able to spoil Carmelo Anthony's homecoming. And that's not because I have any kind of dislike for Carmelo Anthony. Again, you can go back through this podcast history and you can hear me. I talk so much about Carmelo. He might have been the number 1 person that has been talked about on this show. And I think he did great things for New York. I just think it was time for him to leave. And I honestly think they really need to bring him off the bench over there in Oklahoma City because they really need to start figuring this out. They're in a hard conference. And the fact that Westbrook was able to lead them there, now you add 1 superstar and 1 very good scorer, and they are sub 500, just doesn't really make sense right now. And again, there's one basketball, so these things take time to mesh, but they really need to try to figure that out. But great win for the Knicks to just keep climbing above 500. I mean, think about it right now. The New York Knicks have the Hornets tomorrow, so a back-to-back, so that's going to be rough. And they got to go down and play them in their house down in Charlotte. And then they got the Celtics on Thursday, so they get a little bit of a break. And they have to go to Detroit. So there's going to be some traveling here. Now, these games are going to be very important. But the Eastern Conference right now, and again, it's very, very early. But it's very close. Outside of the teams that, again, basketball, let me lay this out. Basketball has no parity. It's the Celtics and the Cavs right now. Yeah, the Raptors at 19-8, but who trusts DeMar DeRozan in the playoffs? Along with Kyle Lowry. I don't. So really it's the Cavs and the Celtics you're looking at. Celtics 25-7, Cavs 22-8. The Knicks are tied for the 4th seed right now with the Wizards, the Pistons, the Pacers. And then the Bucks are 1 game behind them because they didn't play as many games as them. But all of this is going to be cured up. But you need to try to secure all these wins, especially with Porzingis on the shelf. When he came down with that injury against the Nets, I was a little worried. It didn't look too bad. He walked off, though, so I was like, got to be something minor. But Porzingis, me and one of my close friends were talking about this today. He's in the sports world as well. Porzingis is a big man, and big men are susceptible to injuries, and that is one thing that does concern me. He's a very young man, though. He's a very talented man, but we need to keep this individual healthy. And I don't think minutes restrictions are necessarily what needs to happen because Joel Embiid, it works out for him, but Joel Embiid had significant foot injuries that were chronic coming into the NBA that put him on the shelf for over a season. That's a little bit different. But his size, his unnatural size, Kristaps Porzingis, does worry me somewhat. But good job, Knicks, to secure this W against a very formidable opponent, even though, again, the record may not say it. But on to the other New York team that impressed me, and that is the New York Rangers. The New York Rangers played back-to-back. Now, you got to think about hockey. Hockey, normal player puts on maybe 18 to 20 minutes a night, and you're skating like a maniac throughout that entire time you're on the rink, doing 40-minute shifts, constantly going on and off the rink, grinding it out, hitting each other, the physical play along the boards. You basically go until the lactic acid buildup in your legs cannot let you go anymore because you're going full on, just burning through all of your ATP and your creatine phosphate if you want to get all scientific. But they're able to secure 2 wins. Now, 2 wins against teams that I feel like they're better than. 2 wins that against teams, well, maybe I shouldn't say that when it comes to the Kings, but today they beat a Bruins team that I feel like they should have beat, and that's all I can really ask of them right now. And it came both times with Henrik Lundqvist in net on back-to-backs, which is something you don't see from a goaltender who's about 36 years old, especially when you have a formidable goaltender in Andre Pavlich. So I'm not sure if he's sick or what is going on there. But Henrik played back-to-back, and he came up big. Today, in overtime, he had 33 saves to beat the Bruins. And Zuccarello had that sick wrist shot in overtime. Just quick snapshot, picked his spot, hit the corner of the net to secure that victory. But Hank, early on in this game, kept the Rangers in the game with some really key saves. He also had a lot of saves down the stretch as well. He had 16 saves in the third period and overtime. And the Rangers actually came out and scored first for once. And you know what? Sometimes puck luck. Sometimes that's what you need. And Grabner got puck luck in this game. And it worked out. Bounced off the back of Boston's goaltender right into the net. They came out and JT Miller scores in the second. And I'm saying, okay, now hold it. Because that is something the Rangers have struggled with. Holding leads. Then Brady Shea takes the bad penalty after Heenan scores. And early on in the third period, Brady Shea takes that bad penalty, and Brad Marchand, of course, finds the net, ties the game up. And I'm like, oh my God, the Rangers are going to lose this. This is going to be absolutely terrible. But Zuccarello scored in overtime. But they were able to secure this victory after beating another tough team in Los Angeles. And that's, again, what I'm looking for in this team right now. Every point is so damn important. And I know the Kings are on the road, but the Kings are sitting there at 44 points right now, one of the better teams in hockey. And Rick Nash came through for the team. Chris Kreider came through for the team. We saw Marian Gaborik come back and haunt the Rangers, which we've seen him plenty of times after he was a Ranger and then after he was on this King team that beat the Rangers in 2014. Still scars me today. But in that game, it was a hard-fought, gritty, grinded-out kind of game to beat a formidable opponent, and that's very, very encouraging to see, especially seeing Hank make 33 saves in that game because he's been struggling lately. But the defense needs to come together more. We saw Shattenkirk struggle defensively. He's out there too much when goals happen. But these last 2 games, they're able to put 2 victories together, and that's what I'm focusing on. Because it was getting to another point where the Rangers were slipping, and I was thinking you might start hearing Alain Vigneault's name again. That's how fragile this team is right now, especially in this Metropolitan Division. And you know what? I got to applaud Vigneault. Vigneault comes to this team. We go to the Cup the first year he's here. And the Rangers have been in the playoffs every year since. And you know what? 4 or 5 years prior to AV going there. We're on a 7-year playoff streak right now. And this year looks like it may be the year where it might not happen. That's why all of these wins are so important. But that game against the Kings, it's a good team. You're at home. You're supposed to win the damn game. And they were able to do that. And I'm proud of them for that. But again, look at this Metro. We go over it every time, and I'm going to keep going over it because it's remarkable how good every team is and how close they all are. And again, the Flyers, just like I said, 2 or 3 shows ago when they had a 3-game winning streak. They have a 6-game winning streak now. Remember last year, they went on 12-game winning streaks. They went on multiple winning streaks several different times. And they're sitting there at 35 points. Rangers at 39. At the top of the division, you got the Capitals at 43, Devils and Jackets at 41. Rangers, Islanders at 39. You got to watch out. And then you got the Canes down there at 35. And they're in the cellar of the division at 35. They won 3 in a row. Look at the cellar of every other division. The Eastern Conference. Atlantic Division. 23 points is the cellar. Then the Panthers and the Senators both have 29 points. The Hurricanes have 35. Look at the Central Division. The Avalanche have 32. That's not that bad. And then the cellar of the Pacific Division are the Coyotes with 19 freaking points. The Metropolitan Division, incredibly competitive. So every point you can get matters. Alrighty, just wanted to briefly touch on the NHL. Now, let's dive into this for a second. We had 2 Saturday games. I could go into that Thursday night game where the Colts lost to the Broncos, but does it really matter? Does it really matter? We saw Brock Osweiler probably be a top 5 fantasy option coming off the bench once Trevor Siemian separated his shoulder. Something that's just fantasy football right there, though. No one would ever think that would happen, but he was playing the Colts. I kind of like the camera angle. When Trevor Siemian threw that interception early on, I was like, don't throw that. And he threw it to DT, and that was an easy interception by the Colts. But anyways, neither of those teams are relevant right now. But this team, the early game today, the Detroit Lions are still fighting for a playoff spot. They're 8-6 right now. They beat the Bears 20-10. Mitchell Trubisky looked like a rookie quarterback in this game. He made bad mistakes, bad throws, threw 3 interceptions, threw for over 300 yards, but the game script just got away from what the Bears wanted to do. And what the Bears wanted to do was run the football. Wanted to establish the run. They only got 10 carries to Jordan Howard, who had 37 yards. That is not the game script you want. You don't want Mitchell Trubisky dropping back and throwing the football 46 freaking times, especially with that marginal is being kind receiving core that they have. Kendall Wright ended up with 7 catches for 81 yards in this game. And you got guys like Marcus Wheaton, Josh Bellamy, nobody that really entices you. Adam Shaheen was hurt in this game, so this was just a bad spot for the Bears and the Lions. Matthew Stafford has struggled somewhat against Vic Fangio coached defenses in the past. He was able to put up 237 yards and 2 touchdowns. Very respectable game. I thought the highlight of the game was Marvin Jones Jr. making one of the sickest catches you'll see this season on a 58-yard bomb by Matt Stafford. He jumped over Eddie Jackson. Eddie Jackson, promising young safety, rookie year out of Alabama. You know Alabama safeties, Alabama players in general, very, very well coached, coming from Nick Saban's system. Jones jumped over him. I felt like Jones was in the air for like 10 minutes and snatched it out of the wanting hands of Eddie Jackson and just said, no, this is mine. And that's Marvin Jones right there. I think Marvin Jones is very underrated. He's an exceptional athlete, and his ability to adjust his body in the air and make those kind of contested catches, it's one of the better receivers in the league at doing that. And he doesn't get that credit, but he's very fun to watch, and I thought that was an amazing play. Golden Tate, again, it seems like the Bears, and I know the game script, the Detroit didn't have to throw the ball too much because they had the lead early on when they scored 13 points. But still, Golden Tate struggles against these Vic Fangio coach defenses. They have a good formula to kind of eliminate Golden Tate. But Eric Ebron broke out for 5 catches for 33 yards, got his touchdown. TJ Jones also had his touchdown, and we saw Amir Abdullah come back, and he caught a few balls as well. He was kind of phased out, was injured for a little bit, but he comes back. We saw Riddick fumble the ball, which I don't like seeing because he is a Jersey guy. But the Lions stay in the playoff hunt. Not that they really have a realistic chance, in my opinion. Yes, if the Packers win, they have the same record as the Packers tomorrow. If the Packers lose, Detroit would be up, but you still got the Falcons, you still got the Panthers, you still got Seattle you got to worry about. So I don't really consider them realistic, but there's still a chance. And when there's a chance, just like Dumb and Dumber, you're saying there's a chance. Well, I'm sure they're saying there's a chance because there realistically is. And then there was the night game. Now, this game had significant playoff implications. We saw the Chargers lose this game in Arrowhead 32-13. Now, the Chargers were kind of everyone's darling. They started the season off 0-4, and everyone just kind of wrote them off. But since then, they balled out. Keenan Allen has hit a stride that we have not seen in a while when it just comes to being red hot, as did Phillip Rivers. But I have Phillip Rivers on one of my fantasy teams, and I benched him. I benched him because when you go through Phillip Rivers' track record against Bob Sutton coached defenses, it's just not really that pretty, to be honest. He seems to struggle, especially when it's in Arrowhead. I mean, earlier this year in Los Angeles, he threw 3 interceptions. Go back to last year in, San Diego, he threw 2 picks, and then the game in Kansas City, he didn't throw an interception, but he only threw 1 touchdown. You can go back the year prior to that, in 2015, both games threw 1 interception, no touchdowns. The year prior to that, 2014, he threw 3 interceptions collectively in the 2 games and only 2 touchdowns. He's struggled against Sutton-coached defenses. So I said, no, not in Arrowhead, not like this. And he struggled in this game. He significantly struggled. He threw 3 interceptions, went 20 for 36 for 227 yards and 1 touchdown. It seemed like the Chiefs had a pretty good way of shutting down Keenan Allen, who, again, has been balling out in this game. Melvin Gordon was able to get 4.1 yards per carry, 19 carries for 78 yards, which is incredibly efficient for Melvin Gordon, because Melvin Gordon's a guy who sees all the opportunity, doesn't usually do the most with it. But I want to applaud the Chiefs. The Chiefs were a team that kind of fell by the wayside after starting incredibly hot. They seemed like they lost their identity. Andy Reid gave up his coaching to Nagy, and Kareem Hunt, who everybody loved in the first few weeks of the season, after week 3 didn't score a touchdown. Well, he balled out in this game, had 24 carries for 155 yards and 1 touchdown, also adding a touchdown through the air. Kareem Hunt, really, if you started him in fantasy, you are incredibly happy. Alex Smith had a very respectable game of 231 and 2. We saw Tyreek Hill, 5 catches for 88 yards and a touchdown. It was on that play he burnt Casey Hayward. Casey Hayward's been dealing with this calf issue because I don't know if that happens if he was not dinged up. Now, Tyreek can get past anybody, don't get me wrong, but this Chargers defense recently has been playing incredibly well. Nobody was doing anything of that sort to them. They ranked over the last 3 games one of the best pass defenses and didn't allow, I think, more than like 168 passing yards in the collective 3 games or something ridiculous like that. They were really killing it, the Chargers. But this game, Saturday night, primetime in Arrowhead, was too much for this team. And now they have an uphill battle to make this playoff spot. You got the Raiders, who will be playing Sunday Night Football against the Cowboys. They can win this game, and they can go to 7-7. And they're lucky it's the AFC. The AFC's weak, yes. But they have an important game in Week 17 against Oakland. Now, they have the Jets next week, so they can win that game. And Dallas is not a team that Oakland is going to steamroll. You know, Dallas might even be favored in that game. I have to check. But then Oakland has Philly. And then the Chargers in Week 17. So that Week 17 game can be huge, but it's yet to be seen. Chargers still could make the playoffs here. The Ravens are 7-6. The Titans are 8-5. The fakest 8-5 team you'll ever see. Bills are 7-6. So those wild card spots are still up in the air. And we got the Bills and the Dolphins playing this week in Buffalo. Dolphins win that game, they could even get thrown into the mix, and they're 6-7. Just like the Raiders, but the AFC is terrible, like I've been saying. It's not a good conference. Steelers are 11-2. They're an 11-2 team that plays down to everybody that they face. And they play New England. They'll get up for that game. Should be a good game. New England's 10-3. And if the Steelers win this game, they secure home field advantage over New England. So this is a huge game for them as well. But good job for the Chiefs and Andy Reid to kind of put it all together. An up-and-coming foe, one of the best defenses in the league, and they don't even have their best cornerback in Jason Verrett. Even Casey Hayward's playing so well, I don't want to speak any ill of Casey Hayward. But Ingram, Bosa, that defense, since Perriman's come back, has been incredibly good. Kareem Hunt found a way, so did this Chiefs team, to secure this victory. So good on the Kansas City Chiefs. And tomorrow, there are just a boatload of games that are going to be interesting, intriguing, and have significant playoff implications. Hell, you can make an argument for the Dolphins and the Bills. You can make an argument, and I'm just talking about both the teams involved. The Packers and the Panthers, that's a huge playoff game when it comes to seeing the Rams and the Seahawks. Huge playoff game. Patriots, Steelers. So it's going to be very exciting. And then you got teams like the Ravens and the Browns. The Ravens used to be the Browns. Or I should say, the Browns used to be the Ravens. So there's such a rivalry there. When Art Modell picked up and he left. With those Browns draft picks, and I love saying this. With those Browns draft picks, when the Browns got disbanded, the Ravens draft Ray Lewis and Jonathan Ogden. And then the Browns come back 2 years later. And what happens? They have to face Ray Lewis, Jonathan Ogden, watch the team that was theirs win a Super Bowl. That is the biggest spit in the face of any franchise I've ever heard. That team was the Browns. End up becoming the Ravens. That team ends up winning a Super Bowl. Browns come back 2 years later after they get disbanded. Have to watch them win the Super Bowl. Play against people who were their draft picks. Oh, man, Browns fans have it so bad. And they might go 2008 Lions on everybody. This is their best bet probably to win this game. You know they're going to get up to play a team like the Ravens. They could spoil their playoff hopes. Huge game for Hugh Jackson, but Hugh has not got it done in the least, and Alex Collins is running like a maniac right now. So that's going to be another very fun game. We also get to see Bryce Petty play against the Saints because there's no Josh McCown anymore, and that's very upsetting. But yeah, that's basically wanted to be very brief on the NFL. One more thing I wanted to touch on, and that is, of course, the retirement of Mike Francesa. Mike Francesa, for those of you who do not know or are not from the New York area or maybe just not really too well versed in the radio world, he's a radio legend. He really is, and you could say what you want about him over the last couple of years, kind of arrogant, and he's just getting old and all that, yada, 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 whatever. This guy is a trailblazer in the business. Nobody was doing talk radio back in the late 80s, early 90s, and him and Mad Dog Russo kind of put this whole business on the map, a business I would love to be involved in, and I'm kind of working in that direction. So I want to thank Mike Francesa first off. He put the Fan on the map, WFAN, flagship station here in New York City, and he kind of set this whole market up, this whole job market up. There's people all across the country now talking sports on the radio, and it was all kind of based off what him and Russo did. Russo's still working over there at SiriusXM, so best of luck to him, satellite, whatever it's called. And as for the one and only Mike Francesa, never to be heard on his show on the New York airwaves, radio waves again. It's wild to think about. You said in your final soliloquy that you loved us. Well, I wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, Mike, we love you too. Here's the McMahon. Alrighty, this is Nick Filato signing off of the Grandstand Sports Network and Footballin'. It's almost 3 in the morning. I'm going to get out of here, guys. Enjoy your Sunday. Bye-bye now.